Welcome back to the expense video number 2. In the last video I finished up at project group. I'm going to add some additional columns to Easy As. Now, if I click this columns icon up here, we can add up to 3 additional columns. Well, you add up to 3 columns. You add 3 columns. The moment you click it on, it will instantly add 3 extra columns. So, I'm going to turn it on over here. Turn on 3 extra columns. Yes, they're now switched on. If you don't want them when you print out a report later, if you don't want these columns printed on the report, you just jump back in here and switch it off, and it won't print them on the report, and then you can come back and switch them on again when you're using them. It's that simple. Obviously, we've given it some default suggested heading names, but you might use those particular headings for another purpose. Obviously, it says audit date here. That particular column's our date column. But these particular columns here can be used for any other purpose. I'm going to click close on that, and these columns are now active. If we look down the bottom, we now have a scroll bar, and we see over the side here we've got these additional columns coming up. So if I look at this last entry that I did and we go over here, we'll see we have a from column and we have an add button. This allows you to add different suppliers in, guys. It's just another way of filtering information and another way of you keeping additional track of what your expenses is doing. Me personally, I don't use the additional columns very often. I like to keep my bookkeeping quite simple. The less information I need, the better. I love the project group. I'm becoming very used to this, and I love it. All this other information, I couldn't be bothered, because I just want to get in, get out, and make real money. Accounting doesn't make me money. It's just shuffling paperwork as far as I'm concerned, but it's a necessary evil. So in the from column, you can enter suppliers, for example, or you could use it for some other purpose and rename the heading. This allows you to add. So if I say in here, because I'm a handyman guy under this category here, I'm Mr. Smithfield's Maintenance Services, I'm going to add here that this particular product was purchased from Smith's Fencing. It was a fencing repair that I did. So, Smith's Fencing. And I can now add that supplier to my list by just clicking add. That instantly adds the supplier. So now if I click here, I've got that next time. I don't need to type it in, I just select it as per normal. You see at the top here we have an open list. You can actually open that list at any time as well, and you can see your whole list of suppliers. So if you have a list of 20 or 30 suppliers and you want to add them now, you can just go here and quickly add them all in one go. Now, I can delete that sample there, and off we go. Right, on the side here, you can enter a receipt number, if you have a receipt number, and you can enter an audit date. This is where you might go back at the end of the month and audit all your receipts to make sure that you actually have entered them all in, or whatever purpose. Me, I don't use it, like I said, because end of the day, I have a box that I put my receipts in. They don't go into the box until I've entered them in here anyway. I don't think I need to explain anything else here. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. What I want to point out, though, is just a couple of little extra neat little tricks that have occurred. If we look down the bottom here, we have this blue box. If I put my mouse over this blue box, this comes up. This is a view your expense lists. Now this is going to give me a view of all my transactions. If I have a look at the top here, you can view your transactions, but you end up scrolling across the side to view everything. Because I've turned on columns, it activates the ability for you to see everything on the screen at one time. So this is the whole complete transaction of this transaction number 1. I can click to the next transaction and I can see all the transaction on the screen at once. So that's a really neat little trick. What else is great about it is you can also add. See here, this is called adding by line. If I click add by line, a new entry, it will take me to the next entry and I can add it by line. So what happens is when I flick, we'll just click on this one. If I flick backwards and forwards, it does that. Right? It flicks backwards and forwards for you. Okay? You might want to add by page. I can click this here and add a new entry by page. It allows you to add it. The whole entry. You can see everything on the screen as you add. So that's a neat little trick. So you can use either method of yours to add. Now, that's on mouse over. I know that some people find that that's quite annoying because they can be using the screen accidentally pass their mouse pointer over the top of that blue box or green box there, and this will pop up. It can become somewhat annoying. So you can change that effect. If I click on columns, you see here I can change that blue box from mouse over or use a double click. So I'm going to change that to double click. Click close. It means now then that when I move my mouse over the top, it tries to do something, but it ends up saying, well, actually, I'm not doing anything because we've got that switched off. And it doesn't bring it up. So you can come over here and you can go double click. Click on that twice and it pops up. See, nothing. Click on it twice and it pops up. That's simple, folks. Right. Let's have a talk about another icon you see up the top here. See, we have capital expenses. I'm going to click that and we're going to bring up a capital expense screen. What that capital expenses is basically for is you might purchase items that you know you cannot claim for in that particular year. It might be a depreciable item. Some large plant and equipment items have to be depreciated. The governments don't allow you, and most governments now don't allow you to purchase large ticket items and to claim it as a complete expense in that year. So they allow you to depreciate over certain years. So you can come in here and add your capital expense here. It gives you great additional columns, information here. Whether you know how to depreciate or not is irrelevant. You just enter it in here and you can then print out this report and take it to your account at the end of the year. It offers similar information. It doesn't offer those additional columns, but it offers enough here for you to do that. But what's great about this area here is, obviously, if you're purchasing and you have to remit sales tax, that's obviously remitted in the year of purchase. So anything you enter in this section here, if it had sales tax included, it also becomes included on your sales tax report for that year. The expense doesn't. The expense does not get included in the expense report. It gets included in a capital expense report. And I think this help icon here explains a little bit about that. I'm not going to go over this. I think that's fairly basic and pretty obvious. The only other button I haven't looked at is the calendar icon. From every screen you have access to your calendar. And I suggest you go to the calendar video to look at how to enter the information in your calendar. But again, that's pretty basic as well. I'll click my icon and I can enter my information in here. And you'll see here I've already got some entries I've already entered in. I'm not going to go through this. I suggest you look at the calendar video. I'm going to create a new video now, and I'm going to show you a couple of neat little tricks that are available on this screen to help you speed up entering of information.